Welcome back, everyone. I am Brian, as always, and I am with my compadre, Ross Jensen. Tonight, we are going to do starting pitchers. Now, this is a brand new thing. This has only come out, what do you think, Ross? 2 months ago? It was right about the beginning of the year that the pitchers came out on Scout the Statline.
Yeah, pitching translations are brand new within the last month or two.
Month or two, yeah.
Much less developed than our hitting translations are at this point, as they've gone through years of iterations. This is a little less mature. We don't have things like historical comps built in or scout grade equivalencies. That would be a lot trickier to do when it comes to pitches anyway. What's his fastball rating? I don't know how we would even think about calculating that. But this is going to be a really good episode. I'm really excited for it because this is something brand new we've never really done before. And I really like the results here too. So I'm looking forward to diving in.
I would like to point out that I'm kind of excited for it as well, because I'll be the first person to say that I am awful at scouting fantasy baseball pitching. I'm terrible at it. So this is something that's going to help me just as much as anybody that's going to be watching this video. Ross, what do you got for a beer, man?
Okay. I saw this one and it was staring at me and I just had to go for it. It's called Steal Your Haze. Steal Your Haze from Distill Brewery in, looks like, Normal, Illinois. Double dry hopped hazy IPA brewed with Citra, Cascade, and Eldorado hops. So we're going to give this one a try. I just loved the name Steal Your Haze, and it was like stealing my gaze. So I decided to go for it. So
a great skull with a beard too.
Yeah. It's really cool. I don't know anything about this brewery though. I don't know anything about this beer in particular. It's a hazy IPA, which those are always good in my opinion. Very popular these days. So we're going to give it a shot.
It's a good head.
Yeah. Cheers. That's good.
It's good.
The hazy IPAs kind of have that, I don't know how to describe it, kind of like a pungentness to it, almost like a sourness. And this one has that, but it's a lot more drinkable than your typical hazy. So it's awesome. I like it. I'm going to be able to drink it. What do you got, Brian?
Mine's pretty generic. This is a New Belgium, and it's Voodoo Ranger. I'm sure a lot of people have had Voodoo Ranger. It's an Imperial IPA. It's honestly, one of my normal drinkers all the time. But I did want to showcase it because I like it. I like it a lot, and that's a great bottle.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had plenty of Voodoo Ranger, right, Russ?
Oh yeah, it's a pretty common beer around this area too. So
the way I'm full to the brim.
That New Belgium is a massive microbrewery, if that makes sense. Massive.
Oh yeah.
In this region, and I know both you and I have visited that brewery at different times, and very cool experience.
A little tidbit. This is a Pilkington glass company glass that I won at a golf tournament. I was closest to the hole on a par 3, and I was under an inch close to a hole in one for $10,000. I got this glass rather than $10,000.
You would have gotten $10,000 if you got a hole in one?
Yeah, mere inches, under an inch, landing right next to the hole. The guys at the green were going freaking nuts. They were like, "That's a $10,000 hole."
Wow. So you mentioned that pitchers are a little mystifying to you, before the pod even, and I think you mentioned it even to the folks here. And I got a little bit of Tim Stat. There's no such thing as a pitching prospect, especially. I am also excited for our peak projections for pitchers too, because I do think it's a big help for me. But I want everybody to keep it in mind that there's a lot more variability when it comes to pitchers. It usually takes a little bit longer for them to find success at the major league level. Whereas with hitters, usually there's always a learning curve for every player. But you see some interesting gains with pitchers, like they might go from being a 5.6 ERA guy to all of a sudden being lights out the next season. It's just how they develop. It's very abnormal. We also find the average age is older than the peak age for a hitter. So it's a couple of years older. And I bet you if you were to map all of this out, that the correlation between their production in the minor leagues and their success in the major leagues is all over the map. That's what the correlation would tell you.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to take into the context the pitcher's pitches. For one, the quality of their pitches. There is some really interesting statistical analysis out on pitchers stuff plus rankings and stuff like that. That stuff is really useful. The context is very important. Command is really important, and sometimes that gets overlooked. So there's a lot that goes into pitching. It's just it's a different ballgame.
So let's dive into it, Ross. Let's get into the first of our top 10, and he is named Kyle Harrison. He's a San Francisco Giant. He's prototypical pitcher, 6'2", 200 pounds, 21 years old. He was drafted out of high school out of De La Salle, Concord, California. He was picked round 3, pick 85 by the San Francisco Giants. And so far, his career numbers are 2.93 ERA with 211 innings pitched and 343 strikeouts with a whip of 126. Ross, will you dive into the breakdown of what his stats look like?
When he debuted in 2021 in 98 and 2/3 innings pitched, he posted a 3.19 ERA. Whip was a little on the higher end with a 1.399 whip. But in 98 and 2/3 innings, he struck out 157 batters. So 14.3 strikeouts per 9. Pretty impressive debut. This year, he followed it up in 113 innings pitched. He put together a 2.71 ERA, and this is across high A and double A. So as he's moving up, his numbers are improving. He struck out an incredible 186 guys in 113 innings.
Yeah.
Almost 15 strikeouts per 9 innings pitched. But he also walked 49 guys. So I would say, looking at this guy's profile, strikeout machine. You got to love that. But the walks are a little out of hand. In his career, he's walking 4.3 batters per 9. He's gonna need to bring that down. And his career whip is a 1.257. That's pretty high, especially in this day. We're starting to see guys posting pretty regularly whips under 1. So that's a little elevated for what we'd like to see. But the strikeout rate is insane, off the charts for a starting pitcher.
So when I see 14.5 for his career, I'm like, holy cow, this guy strikes out a ton of guys. That's a lot. Lots of strikeouts. ERA is really low for a career of 2.93. That's Kyle Harrison. All right, let's move on to number 9. And coming in at number 9, this is a player that I'm a pretty big fan of. I own him in a couple leagues, and his name is Yuri Perez, and he's with the Miami Marlins. All slender guy. He's 6'8", and he weighs 220 pounds. He's not at the Tristan McKenzie let's go eat a sandwich league, but he's very slender at 6'8" and 220 pounds. A lot of room to grow because he is only 19 years old. So far, what we have with him as a career in the minor leagues is a 2.96 ERA 155 innings pitched, and a whip of 1.01. Ross, will you break down Yuri Perez a little bit?
Sure. Yuri Perez is still just 19 years old, played the entire season as a 19-year-old, and he's going to be a young 20-year-old this season. Started his minor league career in the Marlins organization as an 18-year-old in single A and high A overall on that season, 2021. In 78 innings pitched, he put a 1.96 ERA together and struck out 108 batters. Minuscule 0.885 whip, and struck out 12 and a half batters per 9 innings. Pretty sparkling numbers. This year, he was challenged a little bit more. Most of his season this year was at Double-A, and there he pitched 75 innings, and he had a 4.08 ERA and struck out 106 batters. Whip was a little bit higher this year at 1.16, but he kept that strikeout rate up at 12.7.
He's really young, and pitchers develop differently than hitters. And for him to be 20 years old and already in Double-A, I think is really impressive. And he's keeping his stats in line. So Yuri Perez, to me, is somebody that I really, really want to keep my eye on, because I think that's pretty incredible. And obviously the Marlins think something's pretty incredible as well.
Yeah, he is the youngest player on this list that we're going to go over.
Is he?
He is. It's very close with one other guy, and he's a huge dude at 6'8".
Yeah.
You have to imagine that that's going to translate pretty well. I think the Dynasty Guru, our consensus rankings, had him at 3rd. So he is a very talented prospect. That's for sure.
Right now, Yuri Perez is a golden stone. You probably want to go get Yuri Perez right now, because I think he's got an interesting thing going on with his age and with his placement in minor leagues.
Yeah, I'd agree. Well, two ways to look at it, because he is very highly ranked.
Yeah.
Statistical production this year wasn't really there to validate that, minus the strikeouts. The ERA was a little bit high. You prefer to see the Yuri Perez from 2021, where it's like a 2 ERA, obviously. But he is really young. Big dude. Good stuff reportedly. So, but yeah, I think he's somebody that you probably want to go after, but keep in mind the price that you're going to be paying.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on, let's get in number 8. And this gentleman goes by Cody Morris, and he is a Cleveland Guardian. He's 6'4", 205 pounds. You're going to hear this a lot, right in that 6'2", 200 pounds. That's what a pitcher is. He's 26 years old. So we got an older gentleman coming in. He was drafted in 2018 in round 7, picked 223 out of college, South Carolina. Break it down, man.
I really like Cody Morris. He's one of the guys that I've been tracking for a few years on the strength of his statistical performances. He came out of South Carolina. At South Carolina, he was a decent pitcher, but I don't think he was a great pitcher by any stretch of the imagination. His career there, he had a 3.52 ERA, 1.198 whip, and he struck out just under 10 guys per 9 innings. Decent career, but not like a great career, which helps explain his draft position, which was not that high. His first year in 2019 at single A and high A, he only had a 4.35 ERA. So this is probably what you might expect from pitcher of this caliber coming out of college. His strikeout rate was pretty decent, though. In 89 innings, he struck out 111 batters, 11.2 strikeouts per nine. So, I mean, again, you look at that and you think this guy's probably a little more experienced than the competition level he's playing at age 22 versus some of these young kids. So an okay debut, but not great. After the COVID break, though, something changed with this guy. So this is kind of like the Von Brown version on the pitching side. At 24, he put together a 1.62 ERA, a 1 whip, and struck out 13.7 batters per nine. This is just in 61 innings, but still, those are sparkling numbers. And then last year, he was hurt most of the season. So he didn't really get to play much until the end of the season. But this is at AAA now. 2021 was at AA and AAA. This last season when he debuted was all at AAA. Only got 15 innings there and put together a 2.35 ERA, a whip of 0.717, and struck out almost 18 batters per nine. It's a small sample, but those are pretty good numbers. And then he made his debut in the major leagues, and he had a 2.28 ERA. He struck out 8.7 per nine. His whip was a little bit higher thanks to a more elevated walk rate, 1.394. But I've got high hopes for this guy. He'll be 26 years old, so a little bit older, but those are very impressive numbers, an impressive start to his major league career as well. So, when we're talking about a guy like Cody Morris and we're saying, well, he's 25, he's old for a prospect, but you also want to take into context that these guys peak later. So this is not super abnormal where you might see a guy coming, like finding that gear a little bit later in his career. And like I said, this is like the Von Brown on the pitching side.
Yeah, totally. A couple things that need to be highlighted a little bit here is the K/9. His career K/9 in the minors is 12.76, but in 2022 it was 16.45. It's a lot. It's a lot of Ks. And I agree with Ross. I want my pitchers to be striking people out and not walking. I want those two stats because I think that's very telling in a pitcher's career early on. I despised the year of 2020 for hitters and maturity and getting to like figure things out in the minors. I think it might have almost helped pitchers because they could just stop for a little bit and not have to go out there and throw gas. And their arms aren't noodles by the end of the year. So a lot of these pitching prospects that we're going to be talking about that year of 2020 might have helped a little bit where they could just heal up a little bit and not have their arm going nuts every single day. Do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I think that's a good take. I really do. And clearly something changed with this guy between that period. And there are those guys that it seems like they came back into the league after the break and things weren't working for them anymore. And then there's the guys that seem like that was an opportunity for them. Yeah. And they've thrived since then.
Sometimes you just need a break, man.
Yep.
Moving on, let's go into number 7. Mr. Gavin Stone, 6'1", a little bit on the lighter side, 175 pounds. He's 24 years old. He was drafted out of Central Arkansas in 2020 by the Los Angeles Dodgers, round 5, pick 159. I like Gavin Stone. I have since he was drafted. But Ross, please break it down.
coming from a fairly small school, his numbers at Central Arkansas were pretty impressive. His last 2 years there, he had a 1.52 ERA, 11 strikeouts per nine, and then a 1.3 ERA with 10.1 strikeouts per nine, respectively. Those are really good numbers. In his college career, he had a 2.42 ERA overall. So, very successful college career. Came into the major leagues in 2021 with a solid debut, 3.76 ERA in 91 innings pitched. He struck out 138 batters, 13.6 per nine, pretty impressive. And he posted a 1.231 whip. So the whip was, again, still a little on the higher end. That was between single A and high A. This year, he played 3 different levels, starting at high A, played some at double A and triple A. And just an incredible year. Across those 3 levels combined, I don't even really need to break them down because it's so good across the board. In 121 and 2/3 innings, he had 1.48 ERA. Extremely low. He struck out 12.4 batters per nine, walked 3.3, kept his walk rate pretty low, a 1.118 whip. So a really good season, I think, from Gavin Stone. I think his ranking here is deserved. He's going to be a little bit older coming into 2023. He'll be 24 years old. He is 24 years old now. But this is a guy that could be in the major leagues right now. So really good season from him. And I don't know that we're looking at an ace here. Interesting tidbit. This was a guy I highlighted on the Call Up Pod when I was a guest on that. Gavin Stone. I don't know that we're looking at an ace here, but we're looking at a guy that could be a really good number 3, possibly a number 2 type of guy. So I have high hopes for him. I think he's going to be a very productive player. And just one of those guys that knows how to pitch, you know?
Not dominating stuff. He's not the big physical body and stuff like that you're going to, see from a 6'8" guy that we just talked about. Like I said, he's 6'1", 175 pounds, but there is relevancy in just knowing how to pitch. Gavin Stone is passing every single stat I pass, like across the board. And I think he's going to be really, really good. With the body type, I am a little bit worried that he might be a reliever, but that is a damn good reliever. Moving on, let's get into number 6, and he is Brandon Walter. Brandon Walter is a 26-year-old in the Boston Red Sox system. He was drafted in round 26, overall 797 out of Delaware. Brandon Walter, what do you think, Ross?
Okay, so I think this is our big surprise on our top 10 list. I don't think a lot of people are very familiar with Brandon Walter. He's not showing up on top 100 lists, not sniffing it. He's a little bit older. There's a lot of factors that go into it. But I do want to run down his statistical performance because I think it helps explain why he is where he is. Number 6 on our list. He came in after the COVID break, after pitching in Delaware. He had a decent career at Delaware where he posted overall a 3.66 ERA, almost 10 strikeouts per 9 innings pitched. He actually debuted in 2019 at the rookie level, 2.7 ERA. I mean, we're talking the low rungs of the minor leagues when he was 22 years old. At just 33 innings, 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings pitched. In 2021, in 89 and a third innings pitched, he posted a 2.92 ERA, a 0.974 whip. The whip is what I'm really picking up on here. Only walked 2 batters per 9 and struck out 13.3 batters per 9. He's 24 years old, and this is at single A and high A, so that's important to consider. This year, his follow-up, he played in Double A and Triple A. He got a very small sample at Triple A, and he struggled there in just 7 2/3 innings. So I'm not going to focus on that. I want to focus on his time at Double A, where he spent most of his season. 50 innings pitched at Double A. He put together a 2.88 ERA, listen to this, a 0.78 whip. He struck out 12.2 batters per 9 innings, and he walked 0.5 batters per 9. He's 25 years old at this point, so he's a guy that he should be making the major leagues here very, very shortly. But that was a very, very nice looking result at Double A. Before he went up to Triple A, and his numbers got messed up a little bit up there.
Yeah.
Doubt about it. But through his career, 3.09 ERA, 12.3 strikeouts per 9. I mean, if you just look at these numbers in a vacuum, especially if you don't know his age, this guy looks like a top prospect, right?
Yeah, I guess my biggest concern is only 180 innings pitched in 3 years.
Yeah.
That's the only, everything else is sparkling. Everything else is terrific. But yeah, only 180 innings pitched.
Well, that's a good point for a 25-year-old, 26-year-old. If he's only got that many innings behind him, like what's it going to look like for him pitching at the major league level? Worst case, though, I think we're looking at somebody that could be a really effective reliever.
Yep. Yeah. Like you just stated, this has really solid reliever written all over him. He doesn't walk anybody, and he strikes out a ton. Give me that in the 6th and 7th inning, you bet.
I think they give him a chance to be a starter, and we'll see what happens. But interestingly, in 2021, it looks like he did come out of the bullpen quite a bit.
Yep.
At least when he was first, at least down in Single A, it looks like he was. I'm not really sure what that was all about, but an interesting profile. I picked this guy up. The thing that I really like about what Scout the Statline is providing is this name bubbled up to me. I didn't know this guy. I looked into him and I was like, that's pretty good. It's pretty interesting. And I was able to get this guy for nothing. So that's the strength that Scout the Statline is bringing to the table now with pitching projections.
Yeah.
They see Brandon Walter as. So I want to walk through the pitching projections a little bit and explain that somewhat. So we've got a projected ERA, we've got a projected FIP, we've got a projected xFIP, and most of our ranking is based off of xFIP, expected fielding independent pitching. So where Brandon Walter does not look great is with his projected peak ERA, but his projected peak xFIP is very nice. And the reason for that is that his ratios are all great. I mean, we talked about that whip being so super low. That's built into it. That's a part of it, and all of that stuff is saying this guy should be a really, really effective pitcher. His numbers haven't been as effective as it looks like he should be based on underlying information. So we'll see if that turns out to be true. I picked him up, we'll see if it works out.
All right. And now we are moving on to number 5. And we are sitting at D.L. Hall. And he's a 24-year-old with the Baltimore Orioles. He's 6'2", 195 pounds, out of Valdosta, Georgia. He was drafted by the Baltimore Orioles in the first round at pick 21 in 2017. What do you got, Ross?
Yeah, DL Hall's got a really interesting profile.
Yeah.
He's gone from being a really big name pitching prospect to kind of losing some luster. And now I think he's kind of maybe starting to regain it. I'm looking at rankings. It still looks like he's dropped a little bit, even coming into this year. Let me walk through his career. He was drafted in the first round, number 21 overall by the Baltimore Orioles. He debuted in 2017, so we're going way back now.
Yeah.
As an 18-year-old, wasn't a great debut, but a small sample, just 10 innings. 2018, age 19, he had a pretty good follow-up with a 2.1 ERA in 94 and a third innings pitched. He struck out 9.5 batters per 9. Interesting that was not very high at that time, because that's kind of become a part of his game now. In 2019, as a 20-year-old, at high A, he put together a 3.46 ERA and struck out 12.9 batters per 9 innings. His whip was a 1.326, was pretty high. He had a problem with giving away free passes, 6 walks per 9. In 2021, after the break, in just 31 and 2/3 innings at Double A, he put a 3.13 ERA together, struck out 56 batters, 15.9 per 9 innings, pretty high. And his whip was way down to 1.011. So his walk rate was still a little high, but he wasn't allowing any hits apparently. So 4.5 walks per 9 that season. 2022, this last season, he played 3 different levels. Well, he spent most of his time at AAA, highest rungs of the minor leagues now. He put together a 4.7 ERA, which is a little high. You don't want to see that in one of your top 10 prospects. And his whip was at 1.448, again, pretty high. His walk rate almost back to that 2019 rate, 5.8 per 9. But he struck out 14.7 batters per 9 innings too. So this guy's profile is kind of all over the map, right? Yeah. High strikeout rate, high walk rate. He's letting people get in. He's letting people score. That's not exactly what you want. Scout the Statline thinks, because probably in large part due to that very high strikeout rate, that his ERA should be a lot lower than it really is. That's what they're signaling with their xFIP, and that's how he comes in where he does in our rankings.
Yeah, like you were saying, career 12.5 K per 9, and then a 5.14 walk per 9. That walk rate has got to go away. If he can control that, he's probably a strikeout machine. But we have plenty of data showing us that walk rate is way too high, and it's ruining his prospect status in my eyes. I look at this profile and I want no part of it, because that is way too many walks, especially when he gets into the majors, where a guy or the guys on another major league roster are just gonna, okay, well, throw your meatball on the corner. I'm not gonna swing at it.
Well, they like to sometimes use this phrase, wildly effective. And I don't know that that's the case here, but I mean, that is something to consider, is like he's kind of just, he's surprising people occasionally, but he's all over the place. If he doesn't make it as a starting pitcher, though, we're looking at a guy that could be a really effective relief pitcher right here. High strikeout rate, allows some free passes, but that might be okay for a 1 or 2 inning stretch, So if he doesn't figure it out as a starter, this guy could be a really good reliever.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would, in my eyes, I don't want any part of it. But pitchers are so interesting. He could figure it out one day and be absolute dominance. That would excite me. But right now, I'm a little bit turned off on the walks.
His projected peak xFIP is 3.27. It's really low.
That's a lot of strikeouts.
He's joining an up and coming Orioles system too.
Yep. That is going to have a really good defense behind him.
Yep.
Moving on, jumping to our next pitcher, debuting at number 4 on ScoutTheStatline.com's pitcher list is Mr. Hunter Brown with the Houston Astros. He's 24 years old. He's 6'2", 212 pounds. He was drafted in 2019 by the Astros in round 5, pick 166 overall out of Wayne State. And he's got some killer stats. Hunter Brown has got some killer stats. Ross, give it to us.
All right. So I think this is a really good example of how, non-linear the development of pitchers can be. Coming out of Wayne State, his freshman year he had a 4.85 ERA. His sophomore year, he had a 4.33 ERA. And then all of a sudden, by his junior year, he's got a 2.21 ERA. His whip is under control. He's striking out guys. Those first couple of years, we're looking in the 7.5 range for strikeouts. Now, by his junior year, 12 strikeouts per 9. So something he figured something out in that period. He made his debut in 2019 in the major leagues after getting drafted by the Astros, who are always pretty clever when it comes to the major league draft. They nabbed him in the 5th round. And he posted a 4.56 ERA in 23 2/3 innings and struck out 12.5 per 9. Whip was a little elevated at 1.31. And then after the COVID break last year, I don't know if you call this a breakout. It was a decent season, but 4.04 ERA in 100 1/3 innings pitched with 131 strikeouts. So we're still looking at a pretty solid strikeout rate around that 12 range. But the whip remained kind of persistently high, 1.415, still kind of off the prospect radar until this year. His age 23 season at AAA, highest levels in the majors now. He had a 2.55 ERA, and in 106 innings pitched, he struck out 134 batters. So keeping that really high. Brought his walks down a little bit to 3.8 per 9 and was able to miss some bats.
Yeah.
That's really the only difference.
Yeah, Hunter Brown excites me. I think I want to go get Hunter Brown on almost every roster that I have. And the biggest reason why is the drop that I can see him making all the way up into the AAA system in the Houston Astros.
Yeah.
Especially with that whip. You
Worth
get a one.
mentioning, you did get some exposure at the major league level too. and put together a sparkling 0.89 ERA. So, yeah, continue.
I think for some reason, I think he has figured things out. That 1.08 whip that he had at AAA in 2022. He's got my eye, and I want to go get him.
The biggest difference is he wasn't allowing hits in 2022. If you look at 2021 and 2022 and you put them side by side, roughly similar amount of innings pitched, but he allowed 92 hits in 2021, only 70 in 2022. And his home run rate went way down, 1.1 to 0.4. They made an adjustment so that batters were not making good contact off of him anymore.
Keep the ball in the ballpark, man.
Keep the ball in the ballpark. Keep the ball on the ground. Yep. Don't let people elevate it. That's probably the biggest difference right there.
Yeah, my recommendation on Hunter Brown is go get him.
Go get him.
Yeah. Moving on to number 3 already.
Yeah,
we are already in the top 3 of Scout the Statline pitching or starting pitching prospects. And the next one that we are going to dive into is Daniel Espino. And Mr. Daniel Espino is at the AA affiliate with the Cleveland Guardians. He was drafted in 2019 in round 1, number pick 24 overall, and he was drafted out of Georgia Premier, Statesboro, Georgia. Let's hear it, Ross. Let's hear your stats, man.
This guy's got a really cool profile. He debuted in 2019 at rookie level. He put together a 1.98 ERA in 13 2/3 innings, struck out 16 batters. Not much to talk about there. He was moved up to low A. He struggled a little bit there. Again, he's just 18. But only on the season overall, he only had 23 2/3 innings pitched. So there's not much to talk about there. 2021 came around. Daniel Espino across single A now and high A put together aggregate a 3.73 ERA. This is in 91 2/3 innings pitched. He struck out 152 batters, almost 15 strikeouts per 9.
A lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. And a 1.124 whip, walking 3.8 batters per 9. So this season, very limited sample. He was out with a lot of injury. Espino suffered from patellar tendonitis and a sore right shoulder. So only got 18 1/3 innings, but he struck out 35 batters in 18 1/3 inning at AA. That's 17.2 strikeouts per 9 and a 0.709 whip. So not walking anyone, striking everybody out. Maybe his arm was a little fresh after not having to throw, but he's skyrocketed up prospect lists as a result, nonetheless. So people were impressed with that sampling. So, I mean, there's risk there. There's no doubt. Like the sample is so small, can't trust it. But man, that's good.
Yeah.
Dynasty Guru had him at number 7. And I'm looking at the major publications. Dynasty Guru had Yuri Perez as number 3. And the major publications definitely have Daniel Espino higher.
So,
yeah.
2022, he's having some knee issues. Not majorly concerning in a pitcher. We can work past some knee issues. But anything up in the arms and stuff like that, I get terrified.
sore right shoulder as well. So
Yeah.
there's definitely risk there. And
Yeah.
you'll see that with most pitchers, right? There's risk. There's every now and then we come across these guys that they're almost like generational. It's like their arms are invincible.
Yeah.
But those are few and far between. Even one that I think of that is like that nowadays, Justin Verlander. I mean, he even went down with Tommy John. I thought that guy was gonna. I mean, I still think he's gonna pitch until he's 45. For whatever reason, he's just his arm is still invincible, even though it's been rebuilt.
I just wrote about Justin Verlander on the Dynasty Gurus. The guy is a steel machine. You don't come back from Tommy John surgery at 39 years old. And he came back and he pitched, might have been his best season.
He's tough, dude.
Yeah. Espino, I believe, has one of the best profiles that I've seen other than the innings pitched. I want to see him go through 160 innings in 1 year and see what he's, if he can hold up. We just haven't seen it yet. Throughout the years, we have in 2019, 23.2 innings pitched, 2021, 91.2 innings pitched, and then 2022, only 18 innings pitched. Massively small sample size, but really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I mean, it's enticing, that's for sure. There's risk there.
Oh yeah.
You can recognize the risk.
Yep. So let's get into our top two. Yeah, I can see Ross getting excited because personally, this is 1A and 1B. And I think 1B should be ahead of 1A. But we're going to jump into 1B right now, which is personal thought, my favorite pitcher in the minors. And his name is Andrew Painter. And Andrew Painter, for one, is a monster. He's 6'7". He's 215 pounds. He's 19 years old. He'll be 20 years old in April. So he was born April 10th, 2003. He was drafted by the Philadelphia Phillies in round 1, pick number 13. He is my favorite pitching prospect in the minors.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this in the first pod that we did.
Yeah.
Episode number 1. 2022, episode number 1, the OG. We talked about Grayson Rodriguez versus Andrew Painter. We both said Andrew Painter. And you know what? We were right once again.
You damn right we were.
Well, what I mean by that is, like, you've had all these other major publications come out since then. You've got Baseball America. They put Andrew Painter as their number 1 pitcher, Grayson Rodriguez number 2. You have MLB Pipeline. They put Andrew Painter as their number 1 pitcher. They put Grayson Rodriguez number 2. So I think we were of the right mindset at that time. I think I don't want to, I'm not going to make predictions because Grayson Rodriguez looks really good. So
really good.
I'm not going to make predictions about their career, but the season that Andrew Painter put together specifically was remarkable. Just remarkable. So if you don't mind, I'd like to walk through his statistics.
You're the man.
A high draft pick. In 2021, he made his debut. He only pitched 6 innings in 4 games, struck out 12 guys, allowed 4 hits, didn't allow any runs, so 0 ERA. We're only talking about 6 innings. Pretty good start, but really not much to make of it. 2022 comes around, and this is his monster breakout season. He pitched in single A, he pitched in high A, he pitched in double A. It didn't really matter where you put him because the results were the same across the board. Overall in the season, in 103 2/3 innings, he had a 1.56 ERA, 155 strikeouts. He only walked 2.2 batters per 9 innings pitched and struck out 13.5. As we talked about that 155. So his whip was a 0.887. Pretty remarkable numbers. Now, it's like half of a season's worth of professional innings pitched if you were going a full season. But that's pretty good.
Pretty good.
All this guy really needs, it's damn good. All this guy really needs is to build up some endurance. He's ready for the major leagues.
And he's 20. He's going to be 20 years old all season long.
Every now and then you get a guy that's 20 years old and they're ready to dominate the major leagues. I think this is one of those guys.
Yeah, this is Walker Buehler.
He's better. Jose Fernandez.
That's a good one too.
Rest in peace.
Yep. I mean, look at his stats. He's that damn good.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
It does. Yep.
But like you said, we need to build the arm up. We need to see 180 innings pitched. He only has 109.2 in the minors so far in 2 years. We need to see a lot more, but I mean, you have to go get him if you have the opportunity. If he is not strong, held by an owner, and you think that, maybe I can throw a couple prospects their way and he's not a big pitcher guy, go get him. Andrew Painter is the real deal. We've been saying it for a year and a half. Go get him.
Agreed. You got to get this guy. If you look at the projections from Scout the Statline, if I go raw xFIP, him and Tank Hence are like right there. Tank Hence just barely got the advantage over him. If I go raw FIP, Andrew Painter is best in the minor leagues. If I go raw ERA, Andrew Painter is second. So we're looking at 3 statistical categories, and Andrew Painter ranks second, and first in those. And those are determinants for who's the best pitcher in the league. If you look at K percent minus walk percent, he leads the league. He's just above Grayson Rodriguez there. I mean, you can cut the numbers in whatever ways you want. Andrew Painter is right up there in all the projections. This guy's a machine. The only reason that he's not above Grayson Rodriguez, if I'm being frank, because he's only got 109 innings pitched in his career. It's the only reason. He's getting a little bit of regression because of that.
Yeah.
Only difference.
I think people are getting a little bit more aware because of such things as scoutthestatline.com of their rookie prospects and stuff like that. Andrew Painter is legit. He is awesome.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about another awesome pitcher, because I don't want that to fall in out of the shuffle here. I'm not saying that Andrew Painter is better than Grayson Rodriguez. Like I said, this is 1A and 1B. My personal preference is 1B, but let's get 1A, because here he is. And number 1 overall at scoutthestatline.com is Grayson Rodriguez. And he's 23 years old. He's 6'5", another big bodied guy, 220 pounds, drafted number 1 overall by the Baltimore Orioles out of pick number 11 out of Central Heights, Nacogdoches, Texas. And Ross, break it down, because he's really good, like really, really, really good. And I'm sitting here saying that Andrew Painter's better.
Well, I'm going to flip a lot back and forth on these guys. I really like Grayson Rodriguez. The profile is incredible.
It is.
It really is. He's a higher end draft pick in 2018. At 18, he made his debut, 1.4 ERA and 19 and a third innings pitched. In 2019, at age 19, this is at single A now, 2.68 ERA and 94 innings pitched, 129 strikeouts, over 12 per 9, and a whip under 1. His career, he's had a whip under 1 every single season, except for that debut year where he only had 19 and a third innings pitched. After the COVID break, 2021, he's now 21 years old. And we're talking about high A and double A numbers, most of it coming at double A. This is notable. In 103 innings pitched, he struck out 161 batters. It's 14.1 per 9. And he had a 2.36 ERA. This is somebody we're fading. I can't even believe it. 0.825 whip. Only walked 2.4 batters per 9. This season, most of it coming at AAA. We'll just say pretty much the whole season was at AAA. 69 and 2/3 innings pitched there. He struck out 97 batters, 12.5 per 9. He put together a 2.2 ERA. Again, only walked 2.7 batters per 9 and had a whip of 0.933. How can this not be the best pitching prospect in baseball?
He's amazing.
For his career, he's got a 2.47 ERA. He's sporting almost 13 Ks per 9 innings, a whip under 1 at 0.949. This guy's incredible.
And he's got 3 times the amount of innings pitched. Like, we have 3 times the amount of counting stats and information that we can get from Grayson Rodriguez. He is clearly the best pitcher in the minor leagues.
Well, these guys are going to really differentiate themselves at the major league level. That's where we're going to figure it out. It's going to be incredible to watch, because I think we got two legit really good pitchers coming up, and everybody else, I mean, we're going to have to wait and see. We might have some guys that come in and they're flash in the pan types, or some guys that come in and they dominate that you don't expect. But I think the two certainties in life right now are not death and taxes. They're Andrew Painter and Grayson Rodriguez.
Really good. I don't even want to argue against it. I think they're both going to be really, really, really good. Painter, for some reason, has my tipping point where I can just say, okay, I'll take Painter instead. When anything else, everything else tells me Grayson Rodriguez. He has the innings. He has it all. Grayson Rodriguez is incredible.
Yeah.
For some reason, I want Painter.
I'm just gonna say I don't know. I'm gonna say if I was gun to my head, I'm picking Grayson Rodriguez.
My heart says Painter.
But Painter, I mean, those numbers are so sparkling. They're so good.
Those two are going to be fun to talk about for years to come. That's it, guys. That is the top 10 starting pitchers for scoutthestatline.com. And shortly, we are going to dive into the relievers, which is going to be real quick, real nice and sweet. We're going to highlight a couple stats here and there. We might do another beer. We'll see. Talk to you guys later.